Hello and welcome back to the Knitting Page channel. If you're new here, my name's Paige and I'm the face behind the Knitting Page. Today I have podcast episode number 26 for you. It is my Jordan year of podcast, or I guess my Jordan podcast, because it's my 26th podcast and I'm 26 years old. But I have been really busy with knitting. For those of you that are new here, I am a teacher, and so I have been relishing in my time off this summer, getting my hands busy and working on my Hot Whip summer, as well as one or two new cast-ons, which I just felt really inspired recently, and so I'll get to that later in the video. But today I have two finished objects, and in classic podcaster style, I am wearing one of them. I'm actually wearing two of my finished objects today, one of which is an older one, which is my fun little pink scrunchie that I have in my hair. That was one that I just wanted to knit this winter for on Wednesdays we wear pink, and to use up a bit of my scrap yarn. But my recent finished object is one that has never been seen before on the Knitting Page channel, and that is my Sabai top that I am wearing. I knit this top in Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in the colorway Dusty Artichoke, if you don't recognize the colorway, because it's pretty infamous in terms of Knitting for Olive. I had 4 balls of Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in my stash, and these simple finishing stockinette pieces such as the Sabai top or the Ivy top by Petite Knit are tops that have definitely caught my attention recently. I had a weekend that was a fun little weekend getaway full of running, spectating, water skiing, which made me incredibly sore. I'll include a little video of me water skiing here, as well as some swimming and just a general cottage weekend. And I really wanted a project that I was A, not going to finish in the weekend and have to cast something else on, and B, involved little to no thinking. The Sabai top by Paula Strickt was a pattern that I had purchased in the spring or winter of this year because I just love the high neck bow neckline. I love the simplicity of the top. It's elegant and classy, and it's a DK weight yarn. I should say it's a DK weight project, and so knitting it goes by really quickly, yet it's not too chunky. I've knitted some worsted Aran weight summer tops and they're just too thick for my liking. The DK weight, or ideally a fingering weight top, but a fingering weight summer top you just need a lot of commitment for, is something that I was kind of craving, just to have a fast finished object high project. And so I did a little poll on my Instagram where I used the Knitting for Olive Dusty Artichoke, a coral cotton merino that I had, and a beige cotton merino as well. I actually didn't look at the poll results. I think it was between coral and Dusty Artichoke, but I just got really inspired by Knitting for Olive. My favorite summer top is the mixed rib cami by Florence Miller that I was wearing in my last episode, and that is knit in Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino, and so I knew that I had enough yarn in stash and it'd be a fun way to get rid of these 4 balls of yarn in a top that I thought was going to be super cute and practical, and I feel like that's exactly what I got. This top took me 4 days to knit, and granted I was knitting a lot during those 4 days because I had some of these big car rides, and I also had time because it was just a basic stockinette top where we'd be sitting around chatting and I would just work a few rows back and forth, and so the piece finished incredibly quickly. I'm really happy with the finished object. I don't know, it just feels so elegant. I've already said that, but I just feel like it does. And I know that there's the roll neckline, and in the sample photos that Paula Strickt has, hers does not appear to roll as much, but I kind of don't mind the rolling. The only thing that I don't love is that when I wear a necklace that's of this length, it sometimes gets tucked into my top rather than sitting nicely on it, so you can see the little pennant. But overall, super pleased with the fit. I knit the second size, and I didn't try it on until I was done knitting. I used the recommended size I knit the size small. Everything except the length, I knit the extra small just because I am only 5'4" in height, and I tend to like my tops, especially my summer tops, to be at a length where it naturally hits my hips. I don't like it to tuck it in, but I also don't want it to be super long, and so I found that both this and my mixed rib cami are a great length that I can wear and have full coverage of my torso without looking frumpy. And so this is the second day I've worn it. I wore it last night to knit night as a little debut. I made sure to when I was blocking it To be fair, I didn't like block it to any like desired measurements. I just had it on my floor and pulled it so that like the fabric looked okay. I blocked it and really just tried to focus on like smoothing out the seams. It has like a little like worked I-cord is what I'd call it, where like you slip some stitches on the sides to get it so that it has like that nice neat finishing, but there's no finishing on the top or the bottom of the top. The purpose of this top was to be like a quick finished object and to have like a new cast on for 2025. I have a couple projects I've been working on like here or there, some lingering whips from last summer. If you've watched my summer plans video, you know that it's hot whip summer and I'm trying to work through the things that I casted on previously. And I have been really proud of myself for completing many of these projects. Some of them I feel like I've had to put to the wayside if they have like a high mohair or alpaca content and there's still a lot of knitting left, just because it's been so hot and I just find that like I'm sticking to the alpaca, such as in my Maya cardigan. This is my first finished object. I honestly would love to knit it in the coral color as well. I just thrifted this like super fun pink skirt with like some coral stripes in it, and I feel like this top would just look so cute for that project, or it would look so cute with that skirt, and like it's the perfect amount. It would get like almost all the yarn out of my stash with just like a couple leftover amounts that I could work into a scrappy project, because I've also really been loving my scrap projects recently. 2 hands up for the Sabai top. I would definitely recommend it to like anyone learning how to knit, anyone that wants a quick summer top. You start casting on in the round to do like the shoulder shaping, which I really like that process of. Sometimes I find when you do like the front panel and the back panel and you have to like seam it or kitchen or stitch it together, it's just not as fluid and like as seamless as a look as when you start and cast on the body, do some shaping, and then split for the front and back pieces and then come back together in the round. The only other thing that I would know is that I prefer to change my yarns for summer-based fibers in the back of the project, or like in the case of the top panels, just leave it at the side and weave in the pieces. There's one section right here where I didn't do that, and I'm like, I thought I had enough because obviously like I worked all the way almost across and there was like, I don't know, 8 stitches left. So it's not the end of the world, but like in retrospect, I was like, I could have changed back and like cut the yarn on this side and just had like a clean start, just because I find that summer fibers are really not forgiving when changing yarns. If you have a good technique, I've been trying magic knot and I also find that like that doesn't work super well. So if you have any good techniques for changing summer yarns and having it not be like a noticeable join, please let me know in the comments below, because I love a cotton merino, but I just don't love how weaving the yarn looks. This one little spot here, I'm like looking at it now in my peripheral and you can kind of see it, maybe you can't see it on camera, and it's one of those things that like you're paying the most attention to like the little details of your projects that like are not 100% perfect, but no one else is probably gonna notice. This was a never had a whip stage on the Knitting Page YouTube channel because it only took me 4 days to finish, and so very, very pleased with this and might be casting on that coral one at some point, although I have some other projects that are getting me super excited recently and I want to prioritize finishing more of my whips, but I have worked down 4 or 5 of them since making that video, which I'm really proud of myself for doing. Speaking of hot whip summer, my next finished object, it is so close to being like perfectly finished, but there's still some ends to weave in, but I'm going to show it to you anyways, is my Norma sweater. My Norma sweater has been a whip for about a year. I cast it on last July and I finished it this July. This is the Norma sweater by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and to say that I love this sweater is like a fairly big understatement. This sweater I feel like is going to be like my go-to in the fall, in the winter, in the spring, and even in the summer. Although as you can see here, like I still have some ends to weave in. I just cannot for the life of me find my tapestry needle, or like I have like a few of them and I can't find any of them. So we might have to go to the store and pick up another 1 or 2. I will try it on for you. This is a sweater that is made using Hobby's Friends Kid Silk and Hobby's Friends Extra Fine Merino. This yarn was kindly gifted to me by Hobby for their Summer Vacations project last summer. Obviously, I didn't finish it last summer. I had like a huge life transition last year where I moved across the country, started my first ever teaching job, and definitely just underestimated how much time and energy I'd be able to give to knitting. And this project is fairly simple, but because there is some color work in it, as you can see, it is not like the easiest, simplest project ever to knit. And so I wasn't reaching for it because I just wanted something really mindless. I used sand, like ice blue and midnight blue, I believe, as the colorways in both their Kid Silk and in the Extra Fine Merino. The Extra Fine Merino is a superwash sport weight yarn. When swatching, I remember my swatch growing a lot due to the superwash, but somehow like didn't really account for that when I was knitting, particularly the sleeves, because the body I just find can be oversized and like whatever happens. But the sleeves, right after I washed it, were like this long. And I did try it on slightly damp. I went to knit night and I just like freaked out and was like, I don't know what to do. Like, do I take back the sleeves? They're so long. And so a lovely woman at knit night gave me the tip of washing it in hot water. I know, crazy. Washing it in hot water, spinning it in the washing machine so that all amount of moisture can get out of it, and then putting it in the dryer for about 10 minutes. So I did that, and I actually put it in the dryer for about 15 minutes because I did 10 minutes and then it was still like a little bit damp than I wanted it to. So I put it in for 5 more minutes, laid it out to dry, and like, it's perfect. It doesn't look felted, it doesn't feel felted. And I brought it to knit night last night and the ladies were like, that's one thing that the podcast doesn't convey, is how soft this yarn is. Obviously you can see yarn on a podcast and it can look beautiful, but that like tactile texture kind of experience you don't get obviously unless you're in person. But this combo is just so soft. It's so drapey. I find that like the weight and the thickness of the sport and the mohair held together knit on 5mm needles is a really lovely combo. My favorite thing about this project is actually just a total fluke in how it happened. So this, hopefully that's in focus. I'm also gonna take this off because it's so toasty. But actually before I take it off, the only thing I don't like necessarily love is this funnel neck. I'm thinking of sewing it down to have it be more of a crew neck, and I think I just enjoy it more at this neck length than the funnel neck length. And so that's one little modification I might make, but obviously it's still very wearable as it is. But my lovely little sleeves that are probably my favorite feature of this sweater was because I was playing a game of Yarn Chicken. So as mentioned, this yarn was sponsored and gifted by Hobby for their knit along. They sent me what I had calculated to be like the exact number of balls of yarn that I needed given the recommended yarn from the pattern. Whether or not I lost a ball somewhere along the way or not, I don't know. I don't think I did. But I also didn't do the best job at keeping track of like what number of ball I was using. I was terrified that I was gonna yarn chicken on the blues because I only had 1 ball of Extra Fine Merino and 1 ball of Kid Silk mohair for each of them. And as I was working through the body and working through one sleeve, the balls just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But as you can see here, there's 4 rows of the light blue and 5 rows of the dark blue included in each of the stripes. So it's really not that much yarn, but of course you're covering a decent amount of space and you have this sandy brown color in between. Now the yarn that I ended up yarn chickening with was the mohair of the brown. My favorite yarn shop here in Halifax has like a huge selection of knitting for olive yarns, but they were on vacation when I was working up this sweater. And because it was hot whip summer, I just so badly wanted to get this off my needles. And so I ran out of Kid Silk mohair, and the cuffs were on the one sleeve were probably about like maybe an inch or like 2 centimeters longer than they currently are. I also have mohair in my mouth, but an inch or 2 longer than they currently are. And I had finished the one sleeve and then I had about, 3-4 centimeters left. I guess I will say that this mohair is shedding a decent amount right now. I looked online, there's 2 other yarn shops here in Halifax. I looked online at one of them and there was nothing in like a light brown color that they had to offer for mohair. And then the other one doesn't have a great website, or I don't even know if it has a website. And so I walked to that yarn shop and they had no light brown in stock. But the lovely lady at the shop, when I was like, I don't really know what to do, like, do I go back and take out some rows of the stockinette section here and then knit the ribbed cuff, or do I just go for it? And she was like, what if you took back a little bit of both and then did like a contrast cuff And because there's the 2 rows of the light blue and the 1 row of the dark blue, I thought that would be the perfect way to finish off this cuff. And so I did 2 rounds, just like you see here, of the light blue, and then 1 round of the navy to match and reflect the color work and the amount of colors for each in this, like, I'm gonna call it like a funky stripe just because it's not like a perfect stripe. I also didn't do a proper Italian bind off where I did the double rows of knitting. I just did 2 rows of the blue, 1 row of the navy, and then did a tubular cast off. Was incredibly happy with the results. But what I ended up doing actually before that was I took back my tubular cast off of the other cuff, and I attached that yarn to the sleeve that I had left to work, and I wanted to work an equal number of rows for each cuff, obviously, so that they're symmetrical. If you've been around, you've probably seen my Talia cardigan, which has 1 sleeve that goes to here and another sleeve that goes to here. I didn't want to make this same mistake twice, and so I made sure that I counted the number of like purl bumps so that I think there's 13 and 13 for each of these cuffs. It's a little bit shorter than the recommended amount in the pattern, but I was like, this is the least amount of like extra knitting and like the least amount of frogging that I have to do. I'm literally just taking rounds from 1 cuff and knitting them onto the other, and then finishing both with 2 rounds of light blue and 1 round of navy before I cast it off. I thought it looked super cute. I'm debating at some point, like, it could be cute to go back and do it with the body. Although actually, you remember how I was saying I was afraid of playing yarn chicken? I don't know if I have enough yarn to do 2 rounds of the color work on the body of the sweater. I also debated about doing it up top, but the Norma sweater starts by casting on for the collar and then going into the raglan. And so because this is a cast on edge and not a cast off edge, I really didn't feel like tinking back and doing all that extra work. And so I kept it as it is with just the little cuffs. But if you like what you see, I think it would be really cute to do this on all of the finishings, the collar, the body, and the sleeves. I'm super happy with the sleeves. Like, every time I look down at them, they look so cute. It's been too hot to wear this unless it's been like a cool evening where we sat around a fire and talked. It was really like the only time I had this sweater on. Incredibly happy with my Norma. It feels so good to have it done. Was really happy with this like yarn chicken reward that happened in this like little creative bit. It's kind of making me think about like other knits and just like a few little custom details I could do to make the piece like more my own. And like when posting on Instagram, like you guys really loved this detail, and so like I'm really happy that like it all worked out, and it felt really nice to not have to buy another ball of yarn. But yeah, this is one of my Hot Whip summer projects that is done, and I'm so happy that it's done. Although of course I don't weave in all of the color work ends for my like big projects. I just weave them in so you can't see them sticking out of the sleeves in the body. Would really love to do that. I just, again, don't know where this tapestry needle is, and so when I find my tapestry needle, I will weave these in. For now I've just kind of been tucking them in, and like I've only worn it around like friends, and so I don't think they're gonna judge me for having an end sticking out of my hand knit sweater. They just think it's super sick that I made this sweater. Those are my 2 finished objects, my Sabai top and my Norma sweater. But speaking of yarn chicken, I have been on a yarn chicken tear, and so one of my friends has a little girl, and so I casted on the Little Lonely Leftovers vest by Wool and Beyond. I have knit myself a Lonely Leftovers vest in my size, and it is one of the pieces that I wear that gets like the most compliments, and I think part of it is because of the uniqueness of the piece. As you can see, it's knit in all over garter stitch. It has this really cute detail on the back of having a horizontally worked back yoke with this piping of I-cord to separate the yoke from the body. I think it's really sweet and really darling. I knit mine in a gray body with white trim. I wear it a lot. I get a lot of compliments on it. I knew that Wool and Beyond had a little human pattern, and I have a few other friends having babies this year, and so my one like I guess thing with the pattern is it's just given in chest measurements, or patterns that give like, you know, the recommended like 0 to 6 months, or like 6 to 12 months, like 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. Like I found those measurements would just be like a better estimate of how big to knit this. And so what I ended up doing was I looked at some like just general charts online, picked a size that I think represented 3T, which ended up being like the first size was like a 2-3-year-old toddler size. And I knit a mixture of the first size of the pattern and the second size because I wanted to make it longer. And it is garter, and so it does stretch. I really like, I'm not around kids very often, and so I don't really know if this will fit her or not. Like, the good thing is that I have friends having babies soon, and so that this will fit someone's baby and someone's kid, whether or not it fits this little girl. I really hope it does. I realized this after I knit the project, but I think I am only picking up every other row in this because I was just picking up like between the bumps here, which I guess would be every other row and not every row. So it does do like a little bit of puckering despite like my best efforts to not have it pucker like this. I'm gonna finish it. I'm working, I have like my I-cords to knit is the only thing left because it has like a cute little bow closure for this project. And like if the armholes are too small or if the I-cord edging here is too tight, I will go back and fix that. It really didn't take that long, but I also don't think it looks too bad the way it currently is. I just want to finish the ties so that it can be fully done. But the reason I talked about this with Yarn Chicken is I had like this a few years ago, like quite a few years ago now. It's when I still lived in Kingston. I went to Pearl & J's and it was on their local yarn store day. Anyways, I got like a little thing of minis that were all different ice cream flavors. I thought it was so cute, but I've learned that I'm not really a sock knitter. I like knitting the odd pair of socks, but I have a lot more sock yarn than the amount of socks that I want to knit. And another project that I have later on is actually going to use up some of that sock yarn. But there's this cute little strawberry ice cream colorway, and I was like, how cute would that be with like this magenta that I knit my Maggie vest in. I was like, that would be so cute. I know I had a full skein left over that I wound up having to cake up, this little strawberry ice cream, and then I also held it with drop saffron in like ballet pink. So I was like, everything is just so cute. I love the contrast of the light pink and the dark pink, and I thought it'd be really lovely. The issue was because it was a mini, I didn't really know how far it was gonna get me. Anyways, it got me to about like here, and then I have no light pink scraps other than the other cotton, and I didn't want to hold the cotton double because I wanted to keep it with like one strand of sock yarn or like one strand of fingering merino and one strand of this cotton fingering. And so I went to my local yarn store, Fia Fia, on their first day back open after their summer holiday, and I found this lovely little yarn. This is locally dyed here in Nova Scotia, and I believe the colorway is Seashells. It's just like this like very subtly variegated like ballet baby pink yarn. When holding it up, it matched like perfectly, and honestly I can't really tell where I switched it out other than the strawberry ice cream one had like little speckles that this yarn doesn't have. It's just slightly tonal. So it worked out really well. I think it looks really like cohesive, where I was debating like, do I hold it with like, I have like more of like a Barbie pink, like do I hold it with Barbie pink and have it be a gradient? But I thought I started it too late to have that be the case, and so got this ball of yarn. Everything's naturally dyed. It has recycled polyester for the nylon, or recycled nylon for the like plastic portion that's in sock yarn, and then it's like organic wool. I have a few other yarns from them. Oh, I can tell you the name of the yarn. It is by Natural You, which is a Nova Scotia dyer here, and this is their sock base in the colorway Seashells. And then I figured that I could either knit a pair of socks with the leftovers, although you just heard me talk about how I don't love knitting socks, or I have a friend having a baby girl in December, and so I thought that this could be a really cute like newborn sweater. Regardless, it'll get used in one way or the other. I've been really liking digging through my scraps or digging through my odds and sods skeins and putting things together. It felt good here to use up some scraps. It's kind of pilling a bit, the like cotton sock yarn area. Overall, I think it is just so cute, and I think with like the little bow tie, it's gonna be so adorable. I'm just really crossing my fingers that it fits this little girl because I think she would look so cute in it. So this is also my first ever baby or like little kid knit, which I found it to be so fun to make. The Little Lonely Leftovers Vest by Wool and Beyond. There's actually one section where I the front, the right and the left, there's slightly different instructions for, like different stitch counts, so I don't know which one's which. I matched whatever the first one was to the, like whether I matched the right to the left, even though technically they had different instructions, so I should probably reach out and communicate that to her. But yeah, this is my like whip, and it's almost done. I don't know if you'll see it as a finished object on here because I'm hoping to give it to her this weekend. So the next whip that I have been working on relates to all of these yarns. And so speaking of these yarns that I have odds and sods for, or I just find like sock yarn is something that like if I go somewhere or like I go to a new yarn shop, it's really easy to pick up a skein of sock yarn because A, it's less of a financial investment than like a sweater quantities of yarn. B, you can knit a sock, a top, a bag, a whatever. And so I've been accumulating a lot of sock yarn over the years, but I really haven't fully finished a lot of pairs of socks. And I really would love a blanket for my apartment and for my space. And after watching Emily from High Fiber Knits talk about all the blankets she's been making, I have an excavation blanket on the go, but it is like every color in the rainbow and then some are in that blanket, and I feel like it doesn't fully match like the story of like the color scheme that I have in my living room. And so I wanted something that was a little more coherent, a little less bold and bright, and I have this lovely book, Knit by Rose Knitwear, and in this book is the Mix Up blanket. It is so stinking cute. And I figured that I probably have enough yarns in my stash to knit this lovely blanket. And so I opened it up, and actually this morning I was just getting like super creative of trying to figure out, okay, like, you know, if I hold a sock yarn double, you know, what's the yardage I get. The blanket is designed to be knit with Aran weight yarn. I'm opting for DK worsted weight yarn or fingering weight yarn held double, just because that's what works best with what I have in my stash, and I'm really trying to use up what I have rather than buy new yarn, unless you'll see here that there's like this ball of yarn I bought to finish a project, and you'll see another yarn purchase that I purchased to help me make a sweater that I want to make using yarn that I already had. I have knit the first little rectangle. This blanket is composed of 12 different rectangles. 4 of them are the edge rectangles, but 12 different rectangles featuring garter stripes. It's super fun. I think it's super creative. It's super simple, and I'm thinking that this will be a great project to have started in the summer and have to work on throughout the school year when I just want something really mindless to work on, but that's contributing to something like with a bigger goal. And then also just the idea of stripes. It's always fun to like work a stripe and then get to the next one, or work 2 stripes, or, you know, whatever, as well as it playing into this like blue. I'm planning to do blue, gray, and brown in terms of a color story to match like the rest of my living room that I have here. I have like a gallery wall that I can like, I guess I can post a photo here that I'm just pointing behind you because it's behind where my camera's set up, that has a lot of like blues and greens and browns and just like coastal-y imaging in it that I figured a blanket like this would work really well in, although I don't have a lot of greens unless they're like vibrant green in my stash, and so I'm gonna stay away from greens, and instead I'm gonna work with some blues, browns, and grays. Super pleased with it. The reason I also brought up Emily from High Fiber Knits is she was talking about when you have these really special skeins, having them in something that's like a houseware product, such as a pillowcase or a blanket, just allows you to see those special yarns and the memories from them all the time, rather than having it in a garment that you maybe wear, maybe don't wear. And so I thought that was really cool and really fun, and so that is my plan for a lot of these yarns. This blue here is leftovers from my lobster socks. I basically used up the entire amount of leftover, which was lucky because I was like, am I in a situation again where I'm playing yarn chicken? There's like the tiniest little ball that is left. There is some gray from an alpaca leftover held with a mini skein from Lillian Pine that I had purchased in Kingston when I lived there, and so that is the first color combo. The next square is this blue and gray rectangle is what I'll be knitting next. And the way that this works is obviously I just knit this first rectangle, rectangle number 1, but then I'll go and I'll pick up stitches along the side here, and I will start the next rectangle and work it out there. So I believe it's called the quilting method. And so I don't have to do any seaming because I'm picking up stitches in order to connect the rectangles together. But for the next one, I'm thinking of doing these two colorways together with the brown as the color that is connecting here with the blue on the inside. And so the brown will also end on the other side. This yarn was also purchased, I believe, in Kingston from Purling Jays in like their clearance section. It's the colorway chocolate. I never really knew what I wanted to do with it, whether it was going to be a top or a pair of socks. I love that it's going to get added to this blanket. This yarn was purchased when I lived in Port Hope, which is kind of fun. This yarn is obviously, I've talked about it just briefly with talking about Natural You, but by the same company that dyed this pink yarn, a Nova Scotia based yarn from, I believe they're based out of Pictou, which is where my research supervisor was from, and this is from their Boreal collection, which is where I did my undergraduate degree, and I spent a lot of time doing both soil and water research in the Boreal. And this one is called Wabakimi, which is this beautiful park in Northern Ontario, and so it's meant to look like the waters of Wabakimi. And I have a water resource science degree, and so this yarn has always been so special to me, and I've never really known what I want to do with it. And so being able to put it into this blanket, I think is going to be so special and so lovely. Kind of similar to the yarn that I have here, so I'm going to have it be in a rectangle that's not like super close to this yarn. I think it's going to be so fun to knit this blanket up and to have it in my home. I've got a couple other yarns here. This one is from County Vacay yarn that I picked up in Pictou, Picton, when I was there with my family before I graduated from my teaching degree. This is another one that came from Port Hope when I lived there last year, and I wanted a speckly yarn because I've never used a speckly yarn before. So like the navy and white specks I think will look really lovely. I have some yarn that was gifted to me by my neighbor that he brought back from India for me. So I think this yarn is really special, and it will be nice to have that in my blanket. I have some like fun just thrifted navy yarn. I have some just neutral, natural colorways from Long Way Homestead and the yarn breed program and subscription that I was going for. And so adding some of these yarns into the blanket will be really lovely. And I just think it's going to be a really great way to use up some of these odds and sods, like single skeins that I have, and put them into like a really meaningful, beautiful piece. And I might buy, like, my parents are coming this weekend and we're gonna go to the South Shore, and I know there's a couple yarn shops there, so like if there is a skein of sock yarn that works with like a blue, brown, gray colorway, I might pick it up so I can throw it into this blanket. But the goal is really to like knit from stash and use up some of the yarns that I already have and make it a really beautiful home piece that will have hopefully forever. And so this is a whip that I'm like really excited about. Those are really, like, since the last time I sat down and talked, these are the projects I have been working on. Of course, if you watched my Hot Whip summer video, you'll see that there's a lot of other projects that I have on the go, but I haven't actively been working on them. I'm planning to bring my tulip loop sweater back into rotation. I think that'll be fun to get off the needles. It only has a sleeve and a collar and like a tiny bit, like it has a tiny bit of one sleeve, a full sleeve, the collar, and just like the bind off of the body to do. So it's really, really close to being done. And so I think that'll be good to get off the needles. And then I have my square neck camisole that I've been working on, that I've done some double knitting on. But other than that, these are the projects. I've been a bit more focused, which has been nice. Obviously this is one that's gonna be in the background. I'll probably show it to you as I finish a rectangle. And so here's rectangle number 1. I'm gonna probably start rectangle number 2 just to get it started. I have one other whip. I totally forgot about her, but I'm so happy about this one. This is a test knit. I was reflecting, and honestly, like last week I was thinking to myself, like, I think I'm gonna be done with test knits. I sign up for them at the wrong time, and I get busy and life happens. But because it's summer, I saw this pattern, and it is the, I'm gonna assume that it's pronounced Juma Blouse, and just absolutely fell in love with this pattern. The designer is Knits for Days, and it is the Juma Blouse, and it is so beautiful. It's funny, last night I started it at knit night, and I showed the ladies there, and they were like, that cardigan is so you. 100% you signed up for that test knit. And I was like, I know. And so the yarn that I'm using to knit this is Garn Tides, which is 70% merino and 30% silk, I believe. I got a 500-gram cone of it from Le Babinets, which was located in Montreal, which, if you haven't watched my Montreal vlog video, I did go and visit Le Babinets in person. But the Holzgarn cones are just like, they're such good bang for your buck. I believe it was like a $60 cone for 500 grams. So you're looking at math page, $6 per a 50-gram ball, which is pretty great. I'm holding it double to get like a DK weight. I'm knitting it on 4.5mm needles. It's a very basic cardigan in terms of like there's no texture going on. It has 5 hook and eye closures, which I think is really special and really beautiful. It kind of reminds me of the Talia cardigan that I knit, but I think this one just looks a little more cohesive, and I'm gonna knit the sleeves the same length. But I cast this on, and it has shaping with like kind of this like, you know, I don't know what to call it, but maybe like, I don't know if it's contiguous or like it kind of looks like a saddle shoulder, but you're not knitting it like a saddle shoulder in the sense of like you're casting on these stitches and picking up from them. But it's a V-neck cardigan. I think it's going to be super classic, super great to wear to work, like dress it up, dress it down, wear it with jeans. And it's going to use a decent amount of this Holzgarn Tides from my stash. And I bought this yarn with just wanting to like have a cone, honestly, and didn't really know what to use it for. I think knitting a cardigan that's merino and silk will be really great, and I am excited to have this piece in my wardrobe. My plan is to bring this, my parents and I are going to a cottage next week while they're here on the South Shore, and my plan is to bring this project just because I know I'm definitely not going to finish it within a week. And there's just lots of back and forth knitting. It's fairly mindless. There's just some shaping involved, but there's not like any extravagant patterns to follow. And so this whip will maybe be done the next time I talk to you. It's going to depend on how much I knit on it. This one will definitely be done, and I probably will hand it away. And this one will be a long work in progress. But that is it for my whips. I did also swatch for some projects. These are both patterns by Unit or Claudia Quintanillo. This is one that is a test knit that I'm hoping to cast on once I finish my tulip loop sweater. I told myself I'm going to get another sweater off the needles before I cast it on. But this is the Divino sweater. Super cute. I love the details on it. It's using like a lifted stitch, which I've never done before, but after swatching with it, I do have one mistake where I didn't pick up all of the like loose threads, but you know, that's what a swatch is for, is to learn. But it's really not that hard to knit, and it's really beautiful, and it has like a cable raglan on it that I just think is so delightful. I don't usually go for beige, but I just feel like it's really timeless and classic and elegant, and so the reason I'm using beige is because I have Uma by Amano in this like light beige color that I picked up from Needles in the Hay on like a clearance. And I held this swatch with just some scrap sock yarn that I had in a light beige, but I didn't have a sweater's quantity of it. So I went to Fia Fia today and I picked up Tweed Supreme by Mayo in the colorway Linen. So I'm gonna hold these together and I'm gonna knit this lovely sweater. The sweater also has a matching skirt that I think is super cute. Will I knit the skirt? Maybe. The only thing I have is that I only have 6 balls of the Uma, and that'll be enough for the sweater, but it's obviously not going to be enough for the sweater and the skirt. And so if I knit the skirt, it'll have to be using Supreme Tweed and like a Knitting for Olive, or the Mayo also does some soft silk mohair, but it's going to have to be a different like fluff than what I'm currently using. Whether or not it's the exact same or it'll look good together, I don't know, but I'm gonna commit to knitting the sweater. I think it's gonna be really lovely for the fall and winter. And so I'm already thinking about my fall knitting plans, which is kind of exciting. So maybe I'll post that video in the next coming weeks. But I did swatch for the Divino, and then the other swatch I did was for the Lucretia sweater, which I was supposed to knit in June and then just like never got the pattern sent to me. So the pattern was finally sent to me, and so I swatched for it, and I think this is going to be so cute. I'm definitely hoping that this will be like a fall winter plan, have it done for Valentine's Day sort of situation, and just work on it here and there. It's a little hot for mohair. Both of these use mohair and alpaca, but this is Sunday by Sandnes Garn for the merino, held with knitting for olive. The colors aren't like an 100% matchup. I don't know if that is in focus, but I think it looks so pretty and so beautiful and so unique, and like I'm excited to have it for Wednesdays We Wear Pink, and just have this like really fun, playful sweater to wear. I just think it's gonna be so cute. And so those are my two swatches that will come to reality at some point. But I also have one more round of acquisitions, and this is from Galt House. And so I was watching Rebecca from Hit Knit Hooray, and she talked about this pattern here. And I just thought it was the most elegant, beautiful two-piece set I have ever seen when it comes to knitting. And so I immediately Googled it, and I saw that Galt House of Yarn or something like that. But they had these little Sandnes Garn leaflets, and they had the pattern. And so I was like, I think I'm gonna order them. They had the summer skirt, which is just, the skirt and top set for a $6 leaflet. Pretty good. And they also had this one, the Clio sweater, skirt and sweater leaflet. Again, skirt and sweater in the same leaflet, $6. So like $3 a pattern. Totally can work with that. This one, which I think is just called the summer skirt set, is knit in one strand of Tin Line and one strand of Mandarin Petite. I have a whole bunch of Line in like an ice blue color that I think would look really beautiful in this. Or I have some navy drops bell that I could do the top in and then order more yarn for the skirt, but I would love this as a full set. Drops bell also has like a new icy pink colorway that I think would look really beautiful in this, so like maybe I'll order that and put the navy blue and the blue into this piece. I don't know. Both of them I think are just so cute and so wearable. I think this is just like a showstopper of a look, and I think this would be like really great everyday wear that you could wear the sweater in the summer or in the fall or in the winter. After knitting, like holding cotton merino held double, it makes me really want to have like a cotton based sweater in my wardrobe, just because it is a great material, just lighter and cooler, and I think I can still wear it all year round, even though I think of it as like wool, winter, cotton, summer. Like I could wear it all year round if I wanted to. And so I purchased these two leaflets. I've also, I don't know, there's something about like the summer set combo. I'm sorry, Nordlund has one in here. If I can find it, it's not in here, let me find it. I mean, it's not in here. I know it's in here, it's just a matter of where. But this is Sari Nordlund's newest book called Summer Knits. But there's this set as well, which is called, I didn't even look at what it's called, the Venus skirt and the Venus top. And like these together, I don't know, I just think there's something so like sexy and beautiful about wearing a matching top and skirt knit set that I just want. I want all of them. But this pattern also has, this book has just so many lovely patterns in it. This Victoria shawl I think would be really beautiful for the winter if you just made it bigger as a shawl. There's also the Specs scarf that again I think would be like a lovely scarf. This little market bag, I've been wanting a market bag for forever. There's two different dresses in here, which I think is kind of fun. The Aurora dress looks really pretty. The skirt set. There is this vest, the Pomona vest or the Pomona top that I think would be really lovely. This Melonia pullover is really great. The Pax top is great. Like there's just a lot of patterns in here that I think are really lovely. And there's something I just love about having like recipe books and actual like tangible knitting books that I'm trying to build my collection. And so I wanted to get this book along with my little leaflets for some summer knitting. I felt like I talked a lot. I'm really like feeling like the knitting mojo. Honestly, this blanket is probably what's most exciting to me, which is crazy because it's a blanket. But yeah, I am so happy it's summer. I'm so happy to be back knitting. and I wish you all the best. I hope you got some great progress done on whatever you're working on, and I can't wait to see you next time. Goodbye! I guess, but if not, I'll include a photo here. Luna!